Hello and welcome to another Stamp with Amy K Facebook Live. And today I'm going to show you a fun little card, a really easy one that I made with some new goodies. So I've got the Floating and Fluttering stamp set that I'm using, as well as some new designer series paper. And of course I forgot what the name of the designer paper is. So if you give me a second, I will pull out my catalog information and I can tell you because one of these days I'll get everything organized. Never for alive, I'm sure of that. Okay, it is the Fine Art Floral Designer Series paper, and I should have remembered that because it's a pretty easy one to remember. So this is a card we're going to be making today, and again, just going to show you quickly how I did it, and it's super easy, and I love the little butterflies. So, all right. Quickly before I get going, Curvy Celebrations. Stampin' Up! Has got a brand new set of products that are available for customers and demonstrators to order right now. And it is the Quite Curvy Stamp Set Bundle, which has got the stamp set here and the dies that coordinate with it. And these are going to be available in the upcoming January to June 2021 mini catalog, but they actually released them extra early so we can get them now. And they also have a coordinating set of products called the Curvy Christmas Stamp Set and the Classic Christmas 6x6 Designer Series paper. So they actually have a bundle here that's $70.50 where you actually get all of the stuff and a 10% discount off of everything. Or you can just order this stamp set bundle and get a 10% discount on that. Or you can just order the Curvy Christmas stamp set and the designer paper. So up to you what you want to do. If you order this through me, you actually are going to get a set of 5 tutorials with videos with them for some projects you can make. So let me know if you have questions about it. If you order either the Quite Curvy stamp set bundle or the Quite Curvy Variety stamp set bundle, which is the big one, you'll get those tutorials from me. So, all right, enough about that. Hey, Elise and Jeannie, thanks for hopping in today as well. I appreciate y'all being here and saying hello. If you're out there, feel free to pop in and say hello and let me know you're here. Hey, Lois. And if you're watching the replay, that is awesome as well. So never mind. And, anytime you want to watch, I'm always happy to have you come take a peek at what we're doing. All right, so this is our card today. Again, I used the Floating and Fluttering stamp set for the little framing on here. And actually the Beautiful Autumn stamp set is where I got the sentiment from. So it's one of them that's in the current mini catalog, the August to December mini catalog actually is where this stamp set comes from. Again, it's the Beautiful Autumn set, which is a fantastic bundle. You can get just the stamp set or it's bundled together with some little punches that coordinate with these for some pretty fall cards. But the sentiments you can definitely use year round on this one. And I love the fonts in this and I just, it's got nice sentiments. So I like it and use it a lot. Hey, Debbie and Lisa, I appreciate you being here, and Kay as well. Hopefully I didn't miss anybody else hopping in. Again, thanks for joining today. So the stamp set that's new that we're using is the Floating and Fluttering Stamp Set Bundle. This is actually, again, from the January to June 2021 mini catalog. And it's got some beautiful butterfly images in it, as well as this really pretty frame. And as you all know, I do love some dies. So we've got coordinating dies with it, which I absolutely love. This die, actually, there are 2 of them. So if you wanted to stamp it in multiple colors or wanted to stamp lots of butterflies, whatever, there are actually 2 of these. So you can stamp a bunch of them and then cut them 2 at a time, which is always nice when we can do duplicates. There's this butterfly die, which is the one we used on the front here, and it cuts and embosses. There's this butterfly die that just cuts around this butterfly, this one that cuts around this butterfly. There are some of these for the kind of greenery pieces that go with it, as well as this butterfly die that cuts out this little butterfly here. And then these are all pieces that you can stamp. It's a 2-step stamp, obviously, and you can kind of overlay the colors over the top of it if you want to use that. So, hey, Marianne, thanks for hopping in today from Indiana. Are you freezing there? It was warm and like pouring rain all day here yesterday, and then it just got freezing kind of overnight. It's getting colder as the day goes on, which is never any fun. So, all right, so that is the stamp set. Again, the designer paper is from the upcoming mini catalog as well, and it is called the Fine Art Floral Designer Series paper. And it's a beautiful pack of paper. Love it. It's like a hand painted. I think actually an artist did hand paint it. A Stampin' Up! Artist did hand paint it, and they photographed it, and that's how they got these images. So beautiful, beautiful. Oh, it's snowing in Michigan. Well, yay, I think. I don't know. I'm not quite ready for snow, but there is actually snow in our forecast here in New Jersey coming up this weekend. So I'm not I'm not excited about it, but at least it'll be on the weekend, hopefully. All right, let's get going on the card. So the card base is petal pink, and I have it cut to 4 1/4 by 11 and scored at 5 1/2. And again, this will work with a book fold card too, the ones that are 8 1/2 by 5 1/2 and scored at 4 1/4. So whatever your favorite card base is, you can use it on either one. So, hey Debbie, no, not ready for snow there. Is that what the no is? So yeah, I don't know. I'm not ready for snow for sure. So it's just, I don't know. And I know it's December and I should be ready for snow, but I'm just not. Ugh. So if I can get my Stampin' Seal going, I'm going to adhere on some pieces of designer series paper. And what I should have done before I started gluing, was show you that this is actually, I'm trying to remember, this is the way it went. One piece of designer series paper, I think. Maybe I did it backwards. Anyway, this was one whole piece of designer series paper, or maybe it's up here. I don't know. Anyway, but it started out as a 6" by 4 1/4 piece of designer series paper, and I chopped off the top and off the bottom of it. So then I could flip it over and use this on part of it, and then the kind of more muted on the other part, and it all worked together on the card because everything kind of layered up, so you can't tell that it's kind of chopped up. So so that's a nice little secret if you're wanting to conserve a little bit of your designer series paper, because it is so pretty. You can cut up pieces like this for the background and nobody will ever know. So it'll be our secret. And then I have a second piece. Again, this is just 1" by 4 1/4 that I have trimmed off the main panel that I'm going to be using for the card front, kind of the focal panel. And just using a little Stampin' Seal to adhere it to the card base. And again, the card base is petal pink, which is in that designer series paper as well. So a little dusting of snow in Nashville. Goodness. I have friends in Atlanta and they told me it snowed a little bit there too. So that's always a little scary. And down south, because I know when we lived there, if it would start snowing, oh boy, even a little bit of snow, and it was like the roads were disasters and schools were shut down for weeks. And anyway, hopefully that is not the case with just a little dusting of snow, but you never know down there. So, all right. So this is a piece of the designer series paper, and it's cut to 4" by 4 1/4. So again, I started out with a 6" piece, chopped 1" off the top and 1" off the bottom, and this is my main middle panel. And then I've got some of the pretty brushed gold, well, it's the brushed metallic cardstock. This is the gold piece, and this is cut to 4 1/4 by 4 1/4. And again, if I wanted to really conserve this, you can cut things out of the middle of it and just use the edges, but I didn't have anything to cut, any reason to cut the middle out of it today, so I didn't do it. But again, just using some Stampin' Seal, and I'm trying to get it adhered so that it's straight and even along the edges, and hopefully I can accomplish that with Stampin' Seal. All right, looks like I think I did it. All right, I'm pulling the card base back in here. Use just a strip of gold, not to waste. Yep. Yeah, and I probably should have, but it's one of those things where when I had already cut the middle out of the designer paper, I felt like I needed something a little sturdy on the background. I could have put some Whisper White or something in there, but I felt like I needed something that was a little more solid in the background so that it didn't sag and look weird. That was my concern with not doing something that's a little more solid on it, if that makes sense. Hopefully that does, because sometimes when you stick things like that together, it sort of sags in the middle, and I didn't want a saggy card. So I got enough other saggy stuff to worry about. So, all right, so I'm just adhering this onto the card front, again, trying to get it somewhat centered, top to bottom, and then just adhering it to the card front with my Stampin' Seal. Next up, I've got some of this really pretty ribbon. Again, this is from the upcoming catalog, the January to June mini catalog. It is the Fine Art ribbon. It's 3/8" wide, and it's kind of a neutral background with little flecks of gold woven through it, and it's beautifully, beautiful ribbon. Hey, Anne-Marie, thanks for hopping in. So I'm just going to take this and stick it in a kind of a Z across my card front, and what I do to stick it in the Z is basically take a couple of strips of my Stampin' Seal and run it here on the card base in an area that I know is going to be hidden by my sentiment. And then I just take the ribbon and run it back and forth across the sticky spot on the card front, and just stick it down with the adhesive that I have gooped on the card front. And that's basically how I do it. It's pretty easy, doesn't waste a lot of ribbon, and again, it's hidden. So I didn't have to cut the ribbon ahead of time and try to figure out how long to make the ribbon. I can make it as long as I need it to be or want it to be to cover on the card front. And I think I want this one just a hair shorter, so I'm going to do that. Super easy. All right. The ribbon is really, really pretty, and like I said, it's just, initially when I saw it in the catalog, it doesn't show well in the photos. When you get your hands on it, then you're like, ooh, this is nice ribbon, and it's really pretty. So hopefully you can see how pretty it is here in the video, but it's beautiful ribbon. So, all right. Next up, we are going to do a little bit of stamping, and I'm going to do the stamping of the frame here in Petal Pink ink, and again, this image is from the Floating and Fluttering stamp set. Hey, Jerry, thanks for hopping in, and no problem. If you're really excited to see the beginning and listen to me carrying on and fumbling around, you can always hop in and watch the replay, but but you'll get most of it. Actually, you know what? I'm doing this backwards. I want to stamp the sentiment first, so I'm going to set that aside and try not to put my fingers in it. And the reason I want to stamp the sentiment first is because I am heat embossing it, and I don't want the heat embossing to stick to the frame. So glad I caught myself before I stamped that. All right, so we've got a little Versamark ink, and again, our sentiment is from the Beautiful Autumn stamp set, so one of them that is in the current catalog. Stamping it in Versamark ink, and I'll set that aside, and I've got gold Stampin' embossing powder, and in my little Ziploc container, just going to take that and sprinkle it on. All right, give it a good flick to make sure all the extra little specks are off of it, and then turn on my heat tool, and I'm going to bring that over here. So I know if you've seen my videos before, you've heard me talk about the heat tool, which is an awesome tool. It's got two settings on it. The level 1 is for drying, and level 2 is for heat embossing. So I'm just letting it heat up right now for the heat embossing on it on the level 2 setting. And then I'm going to take it here and just run it over. And hopefully you can see on screen once it starts turning, it gets kind of shiny and a little more solid looking rather than sort of gritty looking like it is now. And just want to make sure it's all heat embossed, but that I don't overheat it, because you can definitely burn embossing powder. And we all have to do it once at least in order to make sure that, yep, you can still burn it. So if you haven't done it, you will someday. All right, so now we are going to go back to the Petal Pink ink and our frame, and I'm just going to ink it up again just to make sure. I don't know, I'm sure it was probably fine and I could have stamped it, but didn't want to take the chance here. So I'm going to try to line it up here around my sentiment, and I want it to be a little bit off center to the left side, because I'm going to stick the butterfly on my card when I put everything together. So I think I got it fairly straight, hopefully. We'll see when I get it cut out. Sometimes it's a little hard to tell. The gold accents in the ribbon are really pretty. So yep, definitely it makes the that designer paper, it's just perfect with it. So this is the frame we're going to be using, and again, it is from the Floating and Fluttering stamp set bundle. And it fits perfectly right around the little frame. So I'm just going to hop over here to my right side and do some quick die cutting while I'm off screen here. So hopefully you all enjoyed your Thanksgiving and had plenty to eat. We finally finished up the leftovers here. I think, at least from what I can tell, I think the leftovers are gone. So, and if you're still eating them, lucky you. Because in my mind, when you're eating leftovers, that means no cooking. So that's always a good thing. So, all right. Hey, Karen, thanks for hopping in, and no problem. Glad that you made it home from work in time to see at least a little bit of it. So, all right. So there we did the die cutting on it. And again, that just fits right around the little stamped frame, which is nice. And then I'm going to take some Stampin' dimensionals and adhere that to the card front. And I'm going to try to put them up towards the edges, towards the edges, up and down towards the edges. Well, I want it towards the edges. Just because I'm adhering it over the top of the ribbon, and I want to make sure, or try to make sure, that I don't stick the dimensionals on top of the ribbon so that it's not kind of lumpy and weird. And plus, it doesn't stay adhered very well when you stick it on and it only sticks to the ribbon. So I want to make sure that it's stuck, at least in a few places, onto the actual card front on the paper, which I think I got it in all of those. And the next thing that I did was actually did this ahead of time, but I cut out a butterfly with this die. hey, Marcella, thanks for hopping in. And I'm glad you like the videos. Sometimes I feel like I never know. All right, so we got the butterfly here that I used, and it's a cut and emboss butterfly. And I'm going to take a little bit of Flirty Flamingo ink and a sponge dauber, and we're just going to Flirty Flamingo the edges of it. Is that a word, Flirty Flamingo? And don't need to use tons and tons of it, but just put a little bit kind of on the raised areas is where I'm trying to get most of it. And some of it's going to get on the lower areas too, and that's fine, but I'm just trying to get the majority onto the raised area just to give it a little bit of extra around the edges. And that's about all. So I did order for my customers the catalogs today, the January to June upcoming catalog and celebration brochures. So I think that they will be shipping out today. I'm hoping that they will be, and I think that I may have them very soon. But it kind of depends on UPS and when everything gets picked up and whatever. But I will definitely be packing them up and sending them back out to customers just as soon as I get the catalog. So I'm excited for you to see them and see all the awesome new stuff in it. And so yeah, definitely keep an eye out for it if you're a customer of mine. Hopefully within the next week or so you'll be getting your catalog. So I'm going to be using a little glue dot here to adhere my butterfly on, my die cut butterfly. And speaking of the catalogs, if you're not a customer of mine but would like to be one, drop me an email at amy@stampwithamyk.com, and I will put a catalog in the mail for you as well. Just send me your mailing address and I'm happy to do that. All right, next up we've got a gold glitter enamel dot, and we're just going to stick that here on the little butterfly wing to give the butterfly a little extra sparkle because, everybody likes a little sparkle. So that is basically it for the card front. So just a couple little gold touches on it, but really the designer paper does most of the work on this one, which I love. So, hey, Jackie, thanks for hopping in. Glad that you joined today, and no worries being late. So for the inside of the card, I actually stamped, I did one ahead of time, stamped one of the butterflies, and we're going to stamp another one here. And let me get some ink out. So we've got, this is the one image that's the big solid one that has several die cuts that work with it. And I'm going to use some Flirty Flamingo ink, and we're going to ink up the entire image just because it's hard to only ink up one little piece of it. Make sure I got a good coverage on that. And then the butterfly that I want to make sure that I stamp well is the larger one. So I'm just going to make sure that that one's on the paper where I want it to be. The rest of them, if they get a half butterfly, that's okay. And there we go. So I did get a decent image from that one. And then I'm going to bring the Petal Pink ink again and use the solid butterfly image from the Floating and Fluttering stamp set. And we're going to stamp the inside part of the little butterfly over the top, which again it's easy to do when you don't have a camera in between you and what you're stamping, but it's a little more challenging this way. I think I did it, so yay! Anytime it works in between me and the camera, I'm like, oh, So, and then there are some dies that coordinate with this little butterfly here, and this die in particular does. You can also use this die to cut it out, but it actually attaches it together. When it cuts, it cuts it out as one entire big image. So if you want that, that's perfect. Otherwise, if you don't want that and you cut it out with this die, you do have to snip the little pieces here where it connects to the other images, which you can definitely do that. But this one just makes it a little bit faster if you use the solid butterfly, the single one, and just cut your butterfly out. So I'm going to be over here for a second doing a little die cutting again. And hopefully get it cut somewhat reasonably straight. And try not to shake the camera while I do it. All right, I think I did reasonably well on it. Okay, last thing we need to do is we need to adhere these little butterflies to the inside of the card. So this is the panel for the inside of the card. It's Whisper White, cut to 4 by 5 1/4. And I'm just going to do a little bit of Stampin' Seal on the butterfly. And I'm not going all the way out to the edge of this wing because I'm going to adhere it as though the little butterfly is like floating on the edge of the card. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other butterfly. Whoop. Maybe. Come on. There we go. Maybe. I thought I had it. My Stampin' Seal is deciding to not be cooperative today. That's all right. Okay, we got it. if nothing else, you know, I just shove it and make it work. Okay, so we've got that, and they're adhered here on the edges and kind of hanging off the edges a little bit. And all I'm going to do is take my paper snips, or you can take a trimmer, either way, and just trim off the extra little bits of butterfly so that it doesn't hang off the outside of your card. And then we're just going to adhere this to the inside of the card base, and we will be all done with the card today. So thanks so much for joining. I appreciate you being here, and hopefully you like the card. And definitely everybody needs to get this stamp set bundle. And if you don't have the beautiful autumn set, trust me, you need that one too. So order them both. All right, so let me fold this closed and do a quick crease of the bone folder on it, and we will be done with the card. So that is it for today. Like I said, it's super simple, and I love that the designer paper really does all the work in this one. And the die cuts too are also really nice because, you know, I can't make really anything without a die cut. So, all right, thanks again for joining today. I will plan to be live. So far, Facebook has been doing well for me. YouTube, I don't know, I've got something mixed up in my account and I cannot get it to go live. So I will plan to, for the near future, until I can figure out what's going on YouTube, be live on Facebook on Tuesdays around 2 o'clock Eastern Time, and then again on Fridays around 2 o'clock Eastern Time. So I appreciate y'all being here. Thanks so much for joining me today. Have a fantastic rest of your Tuesday, and we will chat with y'all soon.